If you have topics you would like to have us discuss on the Aging Well podcast, please click on the links in the episode description to send us a text or record your message or comments. We'd love to hear from you and how we can help you age well. If you benefit from the Aging Well podcast and would like to support the content financially, please click on the Support the Show link or support our affiliates and advertisers. Welcome to the Aging Well podcast. I'm Jeff Armstrong here with Corbin Bruton. In this and the episodes that follow, we will share candid discussions on aging and hear from the experts. We are here to inform and encourage as we experience, well, aging. How do you see yourself at 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years of age? What physical task do you want to be able to do as you age well? In today's episode, Corbin and I discuss our list of 10 activities that we feel are necessary to do on a weekly basis in order to age well. So Corbin, this past week I got an article forwarded to me by our friend Sandy Griffin. The article is titled Finish Strong. It was written by Peter Attia, the pretty well-known kind of longevity doctor. And it's kind of an interesting article, and I want to just kind of dive into it a little bit and really just kind of do more of a twist on it and talk about how it can be applied maybe for aging well. And in the article, he essentially just presents the longevity doctor's orders that he gives to his patients, and he has them make a wish list of 10 activities they'd like to kick butt at when they're 100, and then attempt to try and gear their workouts toward them. And so it's essentially an excerpt from his book. The book is titled Outlive the Science and Art of Longevity. It's written by both him and Bill Gifford. In the article, he talks about this idea of a Centenarian Decathlon, which are the 10 most important physical tasks they want to be able to do for the rest of their lives. And so it's kind of a framework that he uses to organize his patients' physical aspirations for the later decades of their lives. And the list that he kind of starts them with is hike 1.5 miles on a hilly trail, get up off the floor under your own power using a maximum of one arm for support, pick up a young child from the floor, carry 2 5-pound bags of groceries for 5 blocks, lift a 20-pound suitcase to an overhead compartment of a plane, balance on one leg for 30 seconds, eyes open. And he says bonus points, eyes closed for 15 seconds. Have sex, climb 4 flights of stairs in 3 minutes, open a jar. And number 10 is do 30 consecutive jump rope skips. And of course, his list is much longer. He provides, I believe in the book, a list of 50 different items, and they kind of choose from those. And so what I thought is, okay, this is great, and I don't want to steal from his idea and try and come up with our list of tasks that we might want to do when we're 100. But what I'd like to do is say, okay, let's create our own Aging Well Decathlon and come up with our own list of 10 activities that one should be doing weekly to age well. What do you think?
I love that idea. I think last time we did this, it was actually pretty successful when we gave a list of just things that we would do to age well. I really like the article personally. So let's dive in.
Okay, let's kick ass when we're 100 years old. What do we got to do to get there? And, his basic premise is, what do we want to do when we're there? To me, when I am a centenarian, I do not want to be sitting in a wheelchair, staring at a wall in a nursing home. I want to be out doing something. That's when I want to be an elite power lifter. I want to maybe hit some world records in some masters competitions. That's when I'm going to become an elite athlete. That's my goal. So let's start with your list. What's number 1 on your list of the top 10 things that we should be doing on a weekly basis to age well?
My number one thing is actually not necessarily something we should do on a weekly basis, but something we should be doing on a daily basis. And I just put devotionals. So, whether it's having a devotional prayer, whether it's having a prayer of thankfulness, whether it's hopping into your religious book, whether it's, having time that you set aside not to just be with yourself, but to give to that higher power. Um, Whatever your power may be, I have my devotional with God, Jesus, and honestly, just taking that time, waking up first thing in the morning, reading my Bible, focusing on the verses, meditating on that, it has completely changed my life around. So that would be my number one, is just having a devotional and strengthening that spiritual aspect of your life.
That was kind of number 5 on my list, was meditate, but meditation, including that being kind of the broader sense of reflection, sense of centering oneself, the sense of, kind of aligning oneself with their higher power, with God, with the universe, and those types of things. So that was my number 5. So now I don't have to do my number 5 anymore. But
Oh, okay.
my number 1 should be no surprise. It's lift heavy shit. We talk about that a lot. And I honestly think that in order to be an active, healthy, productive centenarian, that's one of the priority things that we need to be able to do. We talk often about the kind of the basic 5. We want to be, and again, remember that lifting heavy is relative. It doesn't mean that, an 85-year-old grandmother has to be lifting 500 pounds. It might be 45 pounds or 50 pounds. I talked about carrying those 5-pound grocery bags 5 blocks. I mean, that's carrying heavy stuff. So doing the squat, doing variations of the deadlift, the hip hinge, the bench press, rows and presses, those are things that we should be lifting heavy in order to challenge our physical bodies, in order to be able to do the activities that we would want to be doing when we're 100 years old.
That is actually my number 2, which is
Literally lift heavy shit.
Well, no, I put lifting weights, but
Okay.
primarily the 5x5 program that we kind of talk about. So I put down, the deadlift, the squat, bench press, not lap pull downs, but lap pull down / pull up, and then an overhead press. I think just the 5 of those movements, adding to your weekly routine, 3 days a week, I think you're going to see significant results on that. And we've talked about that several times in this podcast. So it's not this particular episode, but we've talked about it in previous episodes on this podcast. So there's really no sense of just continuously bringing it up over and over again.
No, I think it is necessary to bring it up over and over again, because I think it's one of the things we really have to drive home to people who want to age well. If you want to age well, you got to be strong enough to be able to continue to do the things that you want to do that's going to keep you healthy and active and productive. And I think it's hugely important. And that's why I didn't rank it ahead of meditation or the spiritual aspects. Is obviously, I mean, I have a high importance on that, but there's a lot of people who are, very spiritual. They go to church every Sunday. Some people, there's some older people that go to church almost daily, and their physical health is not where it should be, because that alone, is not going to, and that's why I always say that, from a wellness standpoint, the spiritual and the physical are interconnected, because you really need both to be able to succeed in all those different aspects of life. And so, yeah, I think lifting heavy shit's going to be very important. So my number 2 should not be a surprise. Get a regular bedtime and sleep 7 to 8 hours a night. And I came across this week as I was, just doing some other stuff. Somebody linked about Arnold making the case for, sleeping 7 hours or more a night. And he referenced an article titled The Association Between Reduced Sleep and Weight Gain in Women. And he says in the article that if you sleep, people who sleep 7 hours or more on average gain 5 pounds less over a 16-year period than women who only slept 5 hours or less. But his math was off a little bit. For an Austrian, he should have been able to convert kilograms into pounds more effectively. It's actually about 2.5 pound difference. But still, the results of this study basically indicate that women who are sleeping 5 hours or less gained about 2.5 pounds more than those who were sleeping 7 hours over the 16-year period. And women who are sleeping 6 hours gained about 1.5 pounds more. And so for body composition, sleep alone is important. There's another article that we will link in the discussion notes that basically concluded that both habitual short sleepers and long sleepers are at greater risk of obesity. And this was in a population-based 10-year follow-up study in women. And so there's that sweet spot of probably sleeping between about 6 and 8 hours a day is going to be important to our overall health and wellness and aging well.
Number 3 for me, go on an adventure. I think in today's society, there's a lot of people that they have that FOMO, that fear of missing out, and diving into social media. They're like, oh man, look at this person doing this cool thing. Look at this person doing that. And I just kind of roll my eyes at them. I don't get that. I don't get why people compare and contrast what another individual is doing on social media. I think that needs to just be eliminated altogether. But more importantly, I feel that life is too short and this world has such an amazing offering that all of us can either see, hear, do. And so my number 3 would be go on an adventure. It doesn't have to be a huge adventure. It could be right in your back door, right at your state. You can, go on a road trip and then see a nice view. We live in America, having our 50 states, there's plenty of amazing national parks. There's plenty of amazing state parks. But it doesn't have to just be limited. If you save or plan something cool, maybe you go on to an adventure and you go to a tropical paradise. Maybe you go on an adventure and you go backpacking through Europe. Maybe you go on an adventure and you do what's the festival over in India where they throw paint in different colors at you? Maybe you go on an adventure and you do the bull running in Spain, or you view it. Whatever it is, go on an adventure and treat yourself to some of the amazing things that are out there. Don't just stick into a box. Don't just be stationary. Like, see what else is out there. Expose yourself to a different culture. Expose yourself to the beauties of the world. Expose yourself to just adventure. Whatever that adventure is for you, go out and go do it.
So how do you manage that on a weekly basis? I can't imagine that there's anybody other than the wealthiest in the world. Maybe Elon Musk, when he retires someday, will have enough money that he can literally go across the globe on a weekly basis and do a different adventure every week. But on a weekly basis, how do you accomplish that?
Well, like a weekly basis, again, for the more extravagant ones, you're obviously going to have to save money and plan ahead accordingly. But for the weekly ones, we used to do a thing back in the day called Sunday drives, where people would just get in their car and they would just drive around. You can do a spontaneous road trip. You can clear your mind. You can just sightsee. That an adventure is something that doesn't necessarily need to be planned. That's part of the adventure. You know what I mean? You can just drive out to the coast. And if you don't live in a coastal area, you can drive out to the woods. You can drive to an area where, you're going to watch the sunset. Whatever that adventure is, go for it. Drive to maybe you Google searched your the best burger in the state that you're living in. Cool. Make a road trip out there.
So coming from the younger generation that says that our population, my generation has screwed up the world with global warming and all that, you're telling us to drive a lot more. I
Yeah.
don't know about that. Um, I think I get what you're saying. I think adventure wise, we need to try new things on a weekly basis, new experiences. It doesn't have to necessarily be a trip anywhere. I think it just needs to be opening our minds and our experiences to different things on a weekly basis, and not just getting into a really habitual routine. My number three is to walk. So we can walk on a weekly basis, just get ourselves out, get more active. I think the more active we are, the more we're just simply walking, even though that's not going to be of great benefit for improving our VO2 max. It's burning calories. It's getting us outdoors. It is getting our muscles active. It's opportunity to kind of clear our head, maybe do some of those other things like meditate and just think on things. It can be our adventure, but just get out and walk. I discussed my epigenetics test with True Diagnostic co-founder Hannah Wendt in episode 162. Epigenetic testing measures baseline and changes in your pace of aging, giving you the power to steer your anti-aging or health and wellness journey in the right direction. I learned that I am aging well. Click on the affiliate link in the episode description, use the promo code AGEWELL, and receive a 12% discount on your epigenetics test and monitor your pace of aging.
My number four isn't necessarily a weekly event per se. It's something that you can do possibly quarterly, but once you do it quarterly, you will maintain it weekly. And that is to plan an event. So what I mean by this is whether you're, planning a wedding, planning a birthday party, planning a retirement, planning a fundraiser, planning something, becoming involved with your community and helping putting on some form of function where it's going to involve not just yourself, but the community around you. It's going to have some impact. I strongly advise anyone do that because one, it teaches you a thing or two about money. It teaches you a thing or two about handling stress. It teaches you how to balance your time out. It teaches you how to become creative and say, okay, we can't necessarily do this, but let's do that. And it also teaches you how to be flexible. Sometimes in life we plan things and everything will be going super smooth and wonderful. And then life says, no, I'm not going to do that today. And it'll throw you a curveball and you have to roll with the punches. And I think a lot of people that stay in their bubble and they don't get out and they don't become involved in something bigger than themselves, they can't handle that. So I would say the best way to become confident in that particular scenario is to plan an event and then just once you give yourself that timeline, say, okay, in 3 months, I'm going to put on an event for my school, or I'm going to put an event for my kids' sport team, or I'm going to put on an event at my parents' retirement home. Whatever the case may be, give yourself that time frame and then just hit that goal and make it happen.
Would a kind of better weekly approach to that be just simply to involve yourself in your community, become active in your community?
Yeah. So yes, becoming involved in a community event where you're a part of planning an event is one thing. But I would say if you are going to be a part of that event, I would say take on a little bit more responsibility. That way you're becoming accustomed to, okay, this is my domain. I'm a part of the event, but I'm in charge of making sure the music for the event is good. So I need to do my due diligence. I need to do my research. and everything. And so you're taking on that responsibility where if anything goes awry, it kind of falls on you because that was your responsibility versus, well, I was in charge of the music, but the main event was actually it was this other individual. So it kind of falls on them. No, take on that responsibility. Be a part of something bigger than yourself.
I'm not sure I'm entirely following that as a means of aging well. I mean, it certainly is something that we should be doing. I don't know that it's going to have an impact on my performance when I'm in, when I am a centenarian. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I think maybe stretch that a bit to, just plan, take a more proactive, planned approach in your life and don't just kind of go with the flow.
Well, and exactly. And some people, especially those who are starting their journey to age well, maybe they're, graduating college, maybe they're graduating high school, maybe they're in that young age, becoming a part of an event planning, it gets them into that mindset of just planning. It kind of just helps them move forward. I know it definitely helped with me when I took on the role of being an activities director. I was very much just go with the flow and just see where the world takes me. But once I took on the mantle of being an activities director at an assisted living, it became something bigger than me. And I had to plan ahead because it wasn't just going with the flow for me. It was making sure the residents had their had their entertainment per state guidelines.
Okay.
So it does carry forward for those that are kind of stuck in a rut, and for those that are already great planners. Awesome. It challenges themselves and it allows them to kind of become a little bit more in tune with the emotional aspect that goes with planning an event. Because, like I said, when you plan an event and you have an idea in your head, and if something doesn't go that way, it can be really, really stressful. So it can carry forward with, okay, no big deal. I now know how to manage my stress, which is a part of aging well.
Okay. So that was your number four.
Yeah.
So my number four is carry heavy things and walk. So beyond just walking, carry things with you, so kind of more along the lines of, doing your farmer's carries, but it doesn't have to be part of an exercise program. It's like walk to the grocery store and walk back with your, bags. Do things that are going to help you, kind of get stronger and have better muscular endurance. But I think a lot of times we don't carry stuff, and that can have a negative effect on our overall aging.
My number five is challenge yourself physically. So obviously, it can be a matter of lifting weights, but maybe you're going to challenge yourself by adding weekly another 2.5 pounds to your load weekly. It could be signing up for a 5K, 10K, mini marathon. It could be training in a way that you're going to be able to touch the rim on a basketball hoop. Whatever the case may be, challenge yourself physically, and to linking that with having an adventure. I mean, you could challenge yourself physically by walking up a 7 mile hike that's at a 14% incline, and what you're tying in that adventure aspect to it, where you get to see the summit at the top.
Okay. My number five, we've already kind of covered with meditate, but there is quite a bit of good scientific evidence that meditating at least 20 minutes a day has a lot of very positive, biopsychosocial benefits for the individual. And so even if it's just kind of turning off the radio on your commute and just allowing your, as I like to call it, your soul speak, just listening to yourself, to, your God, whatever it might be, to try and center yourself and get yourself kind of better focus, getting that better gratitude. What's your number 6?
My number 6 is enjoy food. We talk a lot about the importance of nutrition, but your nutrition, your diet, it doesn't have to be the improper mindset of die with the letter T at the end, right? You don't have to kill yourself with your diet. You can enjoy food, you can season it accordingly. And, even if you have a super strict diet and you're really good with bringing in good, healthy, nutrient dense food, treat yourself every now and then. Enjoy food. That would be my number 6.
Okay. I'll come back to that when I get to my number 8. My number 6 is take creatine. I think that is a very important supplement that we should be taking as we age, both for muscular health, but also, appears more and more for brain health and for even just emotional health. And so I would encourage everybody to take, maybe 5 grams of creatine a day. The minimum guidelines are about 1 gram per day is necessary for normal functioning. And as we've talked about in previous podcasts, about 64%, I believe it is, percent of the population is deficient in creatine. So I would suggest for long-term aging well, take your creatine.
I actually started supplementing creatine this week, and I have seen just a significant benefits, just in my cognitive thinking, but then in my overall strength at the gym. Like it's you just get that little bit of, I don't know, that little extra push. It's awesome. And to see that result in just a week of taking it that was impressive for me.
I wish our listeners were taking my advice a little bit faster than you are taking it. We've been talking about creatine for a while and you just started?
No, I was taking creatine daily and then I just kind of stopped for several months because
You started taking it again.
Yeah, I started retaking it and it's just amazing and I love it. And I don't know, I feel like the mental benefit you get from it, which a lot of people are like, no, you take it for your muscle. No, you see significant benefits with your brain. My fiance, she takes it too, and she says the same thing. She's like, I just feel more alert and more present when I take it.
So take your creatine.
Take it. It's so amazing.
Number 7.
Number 7 is I said set a bedtime. This one I will give you full credit for. This is probably the best advice I've ever heard. Set a bedtime. Get on a routine. Get on a habit. Are there going to be curveballs in life where you may not fall asleep at that bedtime or go to bed because something came up? Yeah. But for the most part, set that bedtime and then get a head start on the next day.
Good advice. I think I've heard that before somewhere.
Yeah, I'm giving you full credit.
I just rank it a little bit higher. That was definitely my number 2. But my number 7 is move multi-directionally. Just oftentimes, we think about exercise, we do our cardio, and we're doing it all in this very linear, singular pattern, where we're just moving in one plane. And, you're on a bike or you're walking or you're stair stepping. It's all in that more sagittal plane rather than moving obliquely, moving side to side, forward, backwards, up, down. Move multi-directionally, get yourself moving in multiple different patterns. And that may be just simply doing, a little bit more like the plyo floor type of activities we used to do in the sport performance facility for the young athletes. Could be dancing, could be just simply moving in your exercise in different planes rather than just simply moving forward.
I think that's phenomenal advice. Actually, when I was doing personal training, I used to train people the same way. I'd say, everything we do forward, we're also going to go backwards and we're going to go side to side on. And I would use the metaphor of, the older we get, we become more robotic. But when you were younger and you were a child, you're running around, you were agile, you were mobile. And let's get back to that childlike fitness. And it by training your body to get back to what it is designed to do and move on all of those planes, you do see a huge increase with mobility, with stability, with agility. Um, yeah, I that is an amazing one. That I wish I would have thought about that. That probably would have been my number three, actually, if I would have thought about that one. That should be ranked a lot higher. My next one is set family time. So you can take this as you want, but it can be your immediate family, or you can have weekly gatherings where you bring in more family members as well. But setting that family time and it yeah, I think in today's society it's not it used to be a huge deal, and it's kind of not happening as often as it needs to be. And I think just spending time with the family is something that's really overlooked and underappreciated. I really can't go into more detail than that. I feel like it's self-explanatory on the importance of setting that family time.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do there. I mean, a lot of groups. I know it's very popular in like the Mormon populations to have like a family home evening where one night a week is set aside. Everybody's home. It's like a game night. You do activities as a family. I think that's very important. A number of years ago, I think it's been almost 4 years ago now, my wife and I established our 15-minute check-in where we sit down. It's supposed to be minimum of 15 minutes. It's never 15 minutes. It's always longer. And the kids have gradually gravitated toward, wanting their time in that as well. And so they almost like are sitting aside. Like my daughter just this week said, I'll be in 15 minutes. So she's basically saying, I'm going to join in, but you have your 15 minutes, but I'm going to join in. And they like to come in and kind of sit down with us and kind of join in. We talk about our days and all those kind of things. And it is important in this very busy pace that most of us are in, and where we have so many things going on, and it's just limited time to sit down and just to do things as a family. So I think that's a good one. My number 8, I said we'd be back to this one. You said your one about eating. You said enjoy food. My number 8 is eat less, but I don't think they are contrary to one another. I just think we need to eat overall less food, not necessarily dieting from the standpoint of most people think of diet with a T, or die with a T rather. It's more just overall consume less food for our health. And there's plenty of evidence out there that the less you eat, the longer you live. There's been a number of different studies. Have done studies on rats where longevity increases dramatically when they decrease their food intake. And so with eating less, there will be certainly financial savings. There will be health benefits because the body fat loss that we will see with eating less, but also we're consuming less crap. And, if you consume the foods that you really like, but in a moderate amount, you're going to enjoy those much more. So if you are going to have a dessert, you don't have to have dessert every night. You don't have to have huge portions of it. It might be a very, very small portion, but you're going to enjoy it. And it's going to be for your health, not just for mindless consumption of food.
Well, if you notice, I said enjoy food. I didn't say overindulge in food. So I think we're saying the exact same thing on that one. But yes, I would definitely agree. I think there are countless research that would defend the argument that eating less does add longevity to your life. And I know we've talked about it, but I would really like to do a podcast on fasting and a lot of the benefits of fasting as well.
Okay. Number 9.
Number 9, kind of piggybacks off of your 15 minutes with your wife, but it's go on a date with your partner. I think with how busy the world is, a lot of I read a lot of I just read an article the other day that the divorce rate in the American family has gone up to, I think it's just shy of 60%. And that's really, really sad to me. And I think it's important to kind of put everything else to the side and focus on the person that you've dedicated your life to. Focus on that individual where, I made a full commitment to this person. I stood before, God. I stood before my family. I stood before Elvis at a Las Vegas drive-through chapel, and I made a promise and a vow and a commitment to this individual that I was going to be with them forever. And I think it's important to get back to that and just spend time where it's just you and that individual. Go on a date. It doesn't have to be an over the top fancy date. It could just be, a picnic in a park. It could just be dinner at your favorite restaurant from your very first date that you ever went on. Wherever the case may be, just have some you and your significant other time frame and rekindle that flame, rekindle that spark. And if you have kids or other responsibilities, those are really, really, really important. But at the same time, it's a partnership. It's a teamwork. That's not just your significant other. That's your teammate, right? And sometimes you guys need to call a little time out, and you got to go into a huddle, and you have to regroup, and you have to get back together before you go out and you win the game of life. So yes, I would say go on a date with your partner is my number 9.
Okay. My number 9 is be other centered. So not too far off from that, but my concept of being other centered just means, putting priority on other people, their needs, and understanding that our purpose isn't necessarily about ourselves. It's about how we impact other people. And so as we approach life on a daily basis, weekly basis, as we age well, if we are focused on, again, that spiritual concept of not being the center of the universe and that there being things more important than ourselves, then we make the world a better place. Our lives are better. We're probably a little less stressed out too, because we aren't so focused on what's happening to me. It's like, how is what's happening to me impacting others? So I picked that up. That's kind of goes back to kind of I think it's a Quaker approach to interacting with their community, their friends. And, just as we approach others, approach them from another centered viewpoint rather than what am I getting out of this?
Okay, number 10 for me, I put hobby. Get a hobby. Get a hobby that is something that just allows you to have peace. Now, this hobby is going to be different from everyone. There's going to be some people that, they are, they don't like large crowds. So maybe they just need some them time. That could be going fishing. It could be people that, they're more physical. They want to have movement. Maybe they join a jujitsu thing. It could be a hobby where they're involved with a lot more people. So they get together with a group of people but that's still their time. Even though they're spending it with other people, whatever that hobby is, it's a little treat for you. It's a little bit of an escape from whatever the normalcy of the world is going on. It's just kind of a de-stressor, and it's something that is dedicated for you, and it makes you feel good. And so that's why I put that one at the very end. Everything else, you kind of focus on your overall health, your well-being. You're focused on others, you're planning. But that last thing, it's just, hey, that's just you time. Whatever that you time is. If it's reading a book, doesn't matter. Just get something that's just for you.
So my number 10 is read. Just yeah. So, just trying to get into books on a regular basis, read articles, read more than just the Facebook posts and the some of the crap that's on the internet. Get into reading some classics, reading some history, reading some philosophy, reading things that are going to broaden your mind, challenge your mind, and promote that intellectual growth that is important to wellness as well.
Well, I like how you threw in read history. I think there's always three sides to every story. There's yours, there's mine, and there's the truth. And I feel that, it's important to know all of the truth about history, and we can learn from it and we can grow from it. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I really like history. In fact, some of my planning adventures things, sometimes my fiance and I we'll just go somewhere here in Oregon, but we're going there because we've looked up the historical aspect of it. And then we'll go to that event and it's wherever it is. And you're like, man, this is pretty cool. I don't know. That's kind of how we plan our adventures is we're just going to go to a place that we looked up and there's some history attached to it. So learning, growing.
Yeah. And I think that's the general theme of the 10 activities one should be doing weekly to age well is, do the things that are growth oriented, both spiritually, physically, intellectually, emotionally, and socially. And if we're doing that, I think if we're focused in on what I call that well-centered fitness, then I think we are steps ahead of our peers in terms of aging well.
Totally.
Any concluding statements as we wrap up today's podcast?
My concluding statement would be this is just our list. And as you noticed that our list had similarities with it, but it was significantly different. So who's ever out there listening, hopefully our list inspired you. Hopefully the first list inspired you. But it's your life. You're the one that needs to take the steps in order to age well. So figure out what your list is. And hopefully by you figuring out your list and you customizing it, it's going to allow you to age well.
Age well. Yeah, I would say as well, just determine what aging well means for you and plan your path to get there. Determine the 10 things you need to do to accomplish those aging well goals, and if you're looking at Peter Attia's list of things that you can be doing or want to be doing when you are a centenarian, then what do you have to do to get there? And go do it. Do it with a gusto and age well. Thank you for listening. I hope you benefited from today's podcast. And until next time, keep aging well.